Okay, point made, guys. If you were going to spend $6.99, to how much? 240 or 39. What are you doing?
39.
39. All right.
Hey, do you get discounts?
On the cruise?
On everything. Everything gets a case discount, but that's
the guy bringing the crew got stuck in traffic, so unfortunately
we'll have to make do with this. Nice job.
This is a great wine.
Yeah.
Why don't we move on to the last one? I know we're running a little bit over time, but you've been well worth it.
Sure. So the last one, Pertois Morissette, just another producer, very, very small. These guys are maybe making a couple thousand cases a year. I think similar style to Robert Moncuit, but this, to me, in terms of texture, turns it up just a little bit of a notch. You get a little bit, we were talking about that firmness, you get a little more of that, maybe a little bit more of that chalky kind of hold on the palate right at the end, as well as all that biscuity richness that I think we got off of Robert Moncuit as well.
A little leaner, right?
And a little gingery, a very kind of
soft.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Very nice.
Yeah, definitely. I find it, I don't like to use this word a lot, but feminine, I think it's overused, but I think definitely a little more feminine, where the last one, the Robert Moncuit was a little richer, a little more voluptuous than this, but also very, very nice champagne.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, we were talking about certainly that ginger comes almost like gingerbread pops up, but and there's some more that there may be a little more aromatic lift from the Pertois Morissette as well. But and again, I mean, different wines, no question about it. But both very good. I hope in their own set.
Great. So okay, last question. These wines are one actress. We're going to lump them all together, right? one famous actor or actress. No one's picked a male yet. I don't know why, but movie star. What movie star is Champagne?
I was thinking a little bit about your question, and hopefully I can answer it a little bit broader. In that, I think the big producers in Champagne are the movie stars of the world. And I think the grower producers are the theater actors of the world.
Oh,
very nice. I like that.
That's my best take on it.
Ooh, very nice. Well done.
Best champagne moment?
Best champagne moment. I know it was talked about a little bit, but I was at a few years ago of a Krug dinner where they paired up. They did the whole dinner with different Krug courses. So we did the Grand Cuvée, and then we did the Rosé, and then we did the different vintages with different courses throughout the meal. Truly, truly, truly memorable. And it really illustrated for me that champagne can be great to start with, but it doesn't have to be. I mean, we had the 90 Krug with steak, and it was fantastic. And with the filet mignon, it was just amazing. So it's just such a broad range of food that goes well with champagne, I think.
Fantastic. Taylor, you really opened our eyes to some phenomenal grower champagnes that Total Wines and more has in their portfolio. Really appreciate your time. I know you were not feeling well last night, so thanks for coming on anyway.
Our pleasure.
Fantastic champagne. And again, folks, if you're looking for them, TotalWinesAndMore.com. Keep your questions coming. Taylor, take care of yourself. Look for an order from me.
And thanks, Taylor.
Cheers. So I want to open this up to the audience. We've asked all the guests so far joining us in remotely. Favorite movie star that you would equate with some of the champagnes you had today? I'm going to throw Ed under the bus and have him go first.
I like the Audrey Hepburn.
You have to.
Yeah, that's the first thing I was thinking when we had the first grower champagne was definitely Audrey Hepburn. That's the big one that jumped out of my mind. And so, what was it, Robert?
Yeah.
I think earlier who mentioned that. I was like, right on, for sure.
Great. Any others? You have to step up to the podium though. You've had enough champagne to want to step up to the podium, I'm sure. No? Everyone's okay. Shout them out.
Gotta love Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe.
Julie Delpy.
Go.
Yeah.
You're going to have to explain who that is.
Okay. Julie Delpy is a very well-known French actress who has now become a movie producer,
Yeah.
and she's done some funny films. She's done some scary films, some romantic ones, and to me, she represents the spirit of what is champagne.
Right on. Great. Love it.
I have one.
All right, Susan.
You're looking for a man, right?
I'm not looking personally. I'm not personally looking for a man, but.
I would have to say Cary Grant.
Cary Grant?
Yeah.
Nice.
I would have champagne with him.
You know what's funny? We've heard about all these classic
Female.
and this is the first at a classic male.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of
I'm going to have to, I love Cary Grant. I think it's great. I think he's a great one to equate with champagne. Catherine.
Well, now you've got me thinking of current male actors, and it's already warm in here. for some reason, and I do not ask me why, but maybe it's because we've been drinking champagne all afternoon. But anyone out there, can you relate to Gilles Mariani? Gilles? Mm-hmm. I don't hear anybody. But I have to say it's a room full of men. So, ladies, I know you're with me. I know you feel me. Gilles Mariani.
Good.
Woo!
And I don't have an answer for you at the moment.
You don't?
No.
Let's pose that to
Yeah.
everyone out on Twitter.
Hey, Andrew, how about Kathy Ireland?
I'm going to be partial to Angelina Jolie. I don't know why. Maybe because she's a spokesperson for Moet Chandon, but I just think she's fantastic representation of champagne. Anyone else? Bridget Bardot, like it. Okay, so keep them. Anyone out there on Twitter, let us know what your thoughts are, male or female. Could even be Beverly Hills Chihuahua. Doesn't matter. Send it our way. So now I know we've had a lot of questions on what are the different styles: Brut versus Rosé versus Blanc de Blanc versus Vintage. Here's where the tire hits the road. We're going to try some Vintage champagne. We're going to try some fantastic Blanc de Blancs as well as Rosés. We even have a Vintage Rosé in the mix. But maybe you could give us a little primer as to what all those different styles of champagne mean.
Sure. So champagne has a lot of terminology. It's actually one of the easiest areas to understand because champagne is something most of us have heard of, and it's easy to say champagne, and we know it's French, the real stuff, the good stuff is French. It's a little complicated because we're looking at three grapes, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and the third, which is not as well known, which is Pinot Meunier. So we already have that little bit of, complication in there. Mainly it's a blended product. So when we're looking at the label, there's so many things to look at. So we talked about the Grand Marque versus the grower champagne. So the Grand Marque, the big house, the kind of the marquee name with the NM, Negociant Manipulat, and then the grower champagne with the RM, Récoltant Manipulant, and that's followed by a series of numbers in tiny fine print on the bottom of the label, which we couldn't find earlier. So what does all that mean? So, you're kind of sorting through, is it a big name like what we see up here, Perrier-Jouet, Mumm, Veuve Clicquot, Gosset? Is it a big name, Grand Marque? Is it a small, like Farmer Fizz that we've been talking about and tasting? So beyond that, now what are our next variables? So from there, we go into terms like Brut, extra dry, extra Brut. So all of those terms are dosage levels or how dry or how sweet the wine is. So that first set of terms is going to be really easy to find, and Brut non-vintage, for example, is the most popular style. So those terms mean a certain amount of sugar is added to the wine before it's bottled and sent out. So Brut is very common, but Brut is not the driest. There's a level that's drier than that, which is called extra Brut or zero dosage even. And many of the grower champagnes that we've been tasting have been in this category with very, very minimal residual sugar and almost excruciatingly dry on their own without food. So Brut is a very popular and a good entry point for most folks. But many folks start with extra dry, which is not as it sounds extra dry. It's actually a little sweeter, a little softer, more mellow. And we're just talking grams per liter, and there's a variation of 3 grams per liter allowed. So all of these categories kind of overlap a little bit. But extra dry is not sweet at all. In fact, extra dry is really easy to drink, and the best-selling champagne in Las Vegas and in most of America has been Moet Chandon's White Star, which is extra dry. And why do you think everybody loves it? It's because it's not so austere. It's a really popular style. It's easy to drink. It's fun, refreshing. So, and beyond that, you're going to get into demi-sec, for example, which is incredibly sweet. So those are all related to how dry you like your wine. The next thing to look at is, do you want a wine that is golden in color? Do you want a wine that's maybe rosé or pink in color? And so we're looking at things like rosé or blanc de blanc. And blanc de blanc is, like it sounds, white of white. So it's a white wine made from only white grapes. And in Champagne, that means Chardonnay. So if you like Chardonnay, blanc de blanc means that there's only Chardonnay grapes in that bottle, like the Moncuis that we just tasted, anything from Menil, the Salon, the Krug, Menil. So Chardonnay would be labeled Blanc de Blanc. Rosé is a little more complicated because you have Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. Pinot Noir giving structure and depth and muscle and beautiful strawberry and cherry and raspberry flavors. Pinot Meunier kind of, poo-pooed by the big producer. Oh, we don't use that grape. Oh, no, there's no Meunier in our wine. But guess what? Meunier gives fleshiness. It gives appeal. It gives softness. It gives plushness of texture. And so, again, without Meunier, the wine is going to be a little austere. And so, again, Pinot Meunier is totally fine because it makes wines that people love to drink every day. But beyond that, we're looking at the pink color, the rosé color. And so any champagne that is rosé or even Blanc de Noir, white made of the red grapes, is going to have a different flavor profile for the most part. That being said, it really doesn't mean much to try to figure out the blend. Like, oh, I can tell this is 60-40 or 40-60 or whatever it is. Don't kill yourselves trying to do that because, again, Champagne, it's an expression of a place. We're not, of the mentality, most of us in the New World, places like Australia, United States, South America, we're really kind of focused in on the grape variety. But remember, in France, in the Old World, in Spain, Italy, we're looking there at the place. So grapes don't mean so much. And then the final thing that you want to look for is, we've been saying NV, what does that mean? NV, vintage, what does that mean? Well, I can tell you something. NV means about $30 and up. Vintage means about $60 and up. And then the final tier, the pricing tier, until you get to really crazy pricing, which is a whole other thing, like that $699 bottle of Krug, and there are some that are more than that, is this level that we call the luxury cuvée or tête de cuvée. And so that would be your, for example, from Moet, that would be your Dom Perignon, or from Veuve Clicquot, that would be your La Grande Dame. From the folks that make Louis Roederer, that would be your Cristal. And so these are the best of the best. So the chef de cave, the blender, the person that works with their nose to craft the blends will go and pick out the best lots, put it together, and most often those are from a single vintage. So they are often a vintage product, although Krug is a multi-vintage or non-vintage. But again, what does that mean? Does that mean it's better or not? What that means is that if you have wine from a vintage, you're going to have the characteristics of that particular vintage in the bottle. And so you might have a slightly different style from vintage to vintage, even though it's the same producer. So there is vintage variation when you're buying a wine that has a specific vintage on the label, such as 1996, 2002. 2002 was stunning. Of this decade, so far, it's been the best. And so we're seeing some O2s that are going to last for quite a long time and are very, very powerful because of that vintage. But keep in mind, most of the champagne that we drink is non-vintage, and that can be a blend of the past 3 years. So one of the really good things that you can do is right after a good vintage, buy the non-vintage because it's got some of that. They have to, by law, hold back some of every vintage in reserve. So after 02, so when those wines are in the market, the Brut non-vintage that comes out the year after will have some of that great vintage in it, but you don't have to pay any extra markup for that. So that's kind of an insider tip.
That's a great tip.
Okay, we do have actually a text message from Johnny Cigar, who is watching us in Los Angeles, our good friend. And he said, if fine champagne was a celebrity, it would be Keanu Reeves, hands down. What do you think of that?
I don't know. Let's throw it out there.
Is that a little Matrix?
Depends.
Chacun son goût. To each their own.
I like.
Neo.
What's that?
That's Neo.
Neo, yeah. It'd have to be from The Matrix, not from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
The Iron Maiden.
That's great. So I put together a little selection. Hopefully you're in agreement. If not, we can always change out to have the studio audience taste.
Twist my arm.
Twist your arm. So now we've gone from grower champagnes. We're back to the larger labels. And before you misunderstand us and think that we are advocating all grower champagnes, that's definitely not what we're here to do, and that's not what Champagne Day is about. As I think one of our previous guests said, it's thanks to these guys that make grower champagne even possible. And we've put together some fantastic champagnes here. Some family names: Henriot, Gosset, Veuve Clicquot. Maybe not a family name, but definitely a prestige house.
Actually, a name of the original of the family.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The Lady Veuve.
All of them.
Lady Clicquot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we have G.H. Mumm for our Blanc de Blanc, and we have Pierre Jouet Belle Epoque, the flower bottle. I think probably one of the most famous of champagne bottles. How should we taste these? What order would you suggest going through these?
With a straw. I'm sorry. Do we have to share?
Yes, we have some more in the bucket over there. So and we're going to put some pressure on you guys. You're going to actually have to vote on your favorite style of these champagnes. Okay, the ones we're tasting right now, and then start thinking of favorite champagne overall. And then I'd love to involve anyone out there on Twitter as well. Start tweeting your favorite champagnes that you've had. You're already biased. And I like it. Get into it. Maybe we're gonna change some of your preconceptions.
So I think a nice way of tasting these, since we're going to taste them all together in what's called a flight, if you're tasting a lot of wines together, is start with the brut non-vintage, so the lightest and non-vintage. So not to say it's the simplest, but when we're putting these in their various categories, this would be also in price and in from the more everyday style to the luxury cuvées, the more expensive cuvées, also from vintage as well. So, and then we have Blanc de Blanc, and I find many of the Chardonnay-based wines are more delicate, and so I would rather have those first before we get to the rosés, followed by a luxury cuvée or tête de cuvée, the Perrier Jouet Belle Epoque, which is gorgeous. I just tasted this on Sunday. But it is Perrier Jouet. One thing I didn't talk about was house style. And Perrier Jouet, you said feminine for one of the wines before. Every one of these houses falls into a style. Is it light? Is it medium? Is it full? The full-bodied wines like Krug and Bollinger, they're very muscular and smoky, and they've got a really deep flavor to them. Perrier Jouet and Moet Chandon fall into this category of light and almost feminine, and softer. And then we have the houses in between, and Gosset is also leading towards the Krug kind of style. Mont Blanc de Blanc is really delicate and very soft. Not to say that soft can't be complex and powerful, but just as a flight. So that's the way I would go.
Great, let's do it.
So we've had a couple of actors and actresses come in.
Great,
We've been doing
let's
that.
hear them.
So I had to look one up on Google. So we've had Mae West.
Mae West, like it.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if this one falls into being an actress or not, but Madonna.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. The reaction I thought of again.
I think Madonna's maybe a good one because as she has changed her style and music influence, there are many different styles of champagne.
Over generations.
Yeah.
I think she's got a music video for every style of champagne.
There you go.
I agree. That's great because she has, evolved and morphed and changed and kept up for 30 years now. I mean, I used to work out in a gym with her in Soho, and now look at her.
Wow.
I remember buying one of her first songs in Germany in 1983.
Were you born in 83?
I was, yeah.
Yes, we all were.
Whoa, I feel old. Thank you for
Thanks for dating us. On the internet.
Luckily, champagne is the only beverage that leaves a woman more beautiful.
That's true.
At least in her own mind.
Cheers to that.
The other thing I've noticed through the whole day, before we started with the stream, and starting last night, but it's continuing today, is the amount of quotes, almost separate of any other alcoholic beverage, wine or spirit or grain.
It's amazing.
Champagne has, I'm sure if we were to Google it, we could find literally hundreds of them, and all from incredibly famous people.
What are any favorite quotes? I know Lily Boulanger has a famous quote. I'm probably going to slaughter it, but I drink it when I'm happy. I drink it when I'm sad. I drink it when I'm angry. Otherwise, I don't touch the stuff unless I'm thirsty or something like that. So I think that's a great quote. Any other?
Well, I always like to think of Marilyn Monroe, and I don't know if this was a publicity stunt, but she likes to bathe in champagne. And when you have, that at your disposal, that's great. Well, so I actually took a cruise one time, and it was one of these all-inclusive cruises. And so that means, full bar, whatever, room service, whenever. And so I thought, gee, they're bringing me champagne every day. If after 8 or so days I have 8 bottles of champagne, and I could always call for more, I could try it. And so I actually kept all the bottles. I was drinking a lot of them in the bar, so this was just my room stash. And I tried it, and it was horrible. I canceled the photographer. It was just not what I had imagined. So I think the kind of the legend and the story, there's a lot of these stories that are out there too.
Yeah.
And look at James Bond. He's always got the champagne right there.
Right.
And it's very glamorous. Champagne is very glamorous. And I think a lot of times you feel glamorous when you're drinking champagne. The other thing is you have all this kind of the nightclub association and the rappers and all of that, and that whole kind of world is almost elevating champagne and keeping it out there. And I think again, the farmers can't do this kind of marketing, but these houses, they're the most incredible marketeers, and they go out around the world and they're fiercely protecting the champagne name. They're getting the champagne out to the great events. We just had Moet at the America's Cup in San Francisco. They're a big sponsor of LVMH. And so, if it weren't for, and when I worked back in Los Angeles for Seagram, I worked with Mumm Champagne, and so I would take the Mumm, we would go and do all these great things on the studio lots with Brad Pitt, and speaking of actors, and whatnot, and and it was great. So they're wanting their brand in the movies, and then we do the regattas, and it is all about lifestyle as far as positioning. And I think for the everyday person, we're not drinking champagne every day. We're drinking Prosecco or Cava or maybe something simple, and it is a treat. If you could drink champagne every day, I think people would.
Yeah. I would agree. I think, champagne, I think you alluded to this, has been great at inserting itself into everyone's special moments, right? So I think a lot of these quotes too are associated with special moments, and you remember your wedding day, right? You remember the birth of your first child. You remember the Formula One race you won, or whatever else. And
2 nights ago, the Giants. And
there you
at
go.
the end of the game, what do? They take the empty bottle and shower it on the full bottle, and they're spraying it all over the place.
Yeah.
So it is celebration. It's part of fun and festivity and the good life. And I think anyone that drinks champagne for fun, not with food, not so serious, but at a party or whatever. People have fun, things get silly and light, and it's just great. It's really festive. Maybe some of our audience members have a quote for us.
Any quotes? Any favorite quotes? Champagne quotes?
Ken's got a whole list of them.
Yeah?
I only drink champagne when I'm in love, or not. Coco Chanel.
I like it.
Very nice.
You have another one?
One of the ones
Similar, in victory,
you
you
deserve
deserve champagne.
Yeah.
In defeat, you need it.
Yeah.
Napoleon Bonaparte.
Napoleon.
Cheers. What do you think of this champagne? Obviously, we've had this before. We're coming back to the
This is what we think of it right here.
Henriot. Cheers. I think there's no other alcoholic beverage that you feel so happy when drinking, right? You associate it with happiness, and you open it up, and it's hard to be it's not something you grab for in a stupor or when you're not feeling excited about something.
But if you were, it would cheer you up.
It sure would.
It would. It would take you out of the funk. It works for me, and it's really helpful when you're tasting a lot of wine. For example, in Napa Valley, a lot of Napa Cab. It's a great palate refresher.
It is, yeah.
Very much so.
So you work. I didn't know you work for Seagram's. So you know this wine intimately well.
Well, it's been a while, but yes, I'm a big fan. A lot of these names, being one of them, has German origin, and so, but they're all, all of these have the story, the family story.
Yeah.
When we get to the Clicquot, I love the story about her, kind of inventing the, the riddling rack. So let me know when you're ready for that story.
Excellent.
But this is a Blanc de Blanc, 100% Chardonnay, and I believe they used to call this Cremant de Cremant. Cremant is like Menil. It's a Grand Cru Chardonnay village, so all Chardonnay, and just really, really delicate and ethereal. And they had to do away with the term Cremant because now that's the name for champagne-style wines made everywhere else in France, and also that meant that it was more softly sparkling. It was a lower pressure in the bottle. And so, and now we have that same bottle shape. That bottle shape, by the way, is the gooseneck, and it's kind of thin neck and then a fat kind of boxy bottom. And why do I know about that? Because those I cannot savor. They do not work well.
So that's a little teaser for savoring. Like we mentioned before, a lot of people attempt savoring, romanticize savoring. I think it is definitely an art form. You're gonna show an example of savoring, and you bring up a good point. There's specific bottles
Absolutely.
you need to look out for.
Yes, and given the choice, so for example, when Heather Locklear approached us and said, this is going back a few years when she was married to Richie, she said, he's turning 40 and, and I want to have you come down and savor for his birthday. And she said, so her people said, what, let me just clarify. But she was really sweet and very nice, by the way, but but in the details, they said, what do you want? And I said, Cristal and a Magnum, what else?
Right on.
And so, because Cristal savors beautifully, it always goes off perfectly. And I think it's because that clear glass is slightly thinner. And so, but that's not reality. Most times when I go to savor, we're working with a budget, and it's not everybody just says, okay, you can have whatever you want, cost is no object. But
right.
The funny thing about that is that we got the Cristal, we savored the bottle, and then she came up to me and she's like 4 feet tall and very petite, very sweet, very nice, and she goes, Richie likes the sword. Richie likes the sword. Can you have the sword? Of course,
Absolutely. So where did savoring come from? I mean, what's the history of savoring?
So we just heard the Napoleon Bonaparte quote.
Right.
So actually it comes from the French cavalry in Napoleon's era. They were going around and fighting the battles, and and when they would win, the Champenois, already terrific marketers at the time, would hand up a bottle of champagne to the soldier on horseback. The soldier would then take out his cell phone, call his personal sommelier. That's what we do now. So what does the soldier do? What does he have handy to open champagne? He takes a sword out and
wax it on.
Takes the top off of the bottle. And so it kind of developed out of that. And even today, the French cavalrymen train and learn how to savor, but they practice with beer bottles first.
Oh, you can practice with beer?
And then they elevate, special French beer.
Got it.
Don't practice,
Right.
Don't try this. It's very dangerous. Things can go really wrong very quickly. You can be in the ER, and there's sharp glass and all of that, and pressure, and so there's a danger factor there. So again, enter at your own risk.
Good point.
Doesn't the bottle have to have a certain spot on the seam that the savor is supposed to hit, so that
would be the idea.
It would be like kind of crazy to do that on a beer bottle that doesn't have that feature.
Unless the beer bottle is,
Made that
premium
way.
beer that's got the 4 pieces of glass, just like a champagne bottle or a wine bottle. Yeah, so absolutely. You're basically, when you open a bottle of champagne, you are needing to take control of where that gas pressure comes out. And so that's your responsibility. And so that's why, you want to hold it at a side, don't point it towards anyone. One of the bottles I just opened, I could feel the cork pushing out as I was pushing down so that it didn't pop out. And so when you're savoring, if you were to try that, which I don't recommend and I'm not advocating, let me say that again 3 times, very loudly and clearly, I do not recommend this, and it is not something that Planet Grape endorses in any way. You want to be in control of where you're separating the glass. And so, you know, we're looking at the bottle, the logistics of the bottle, how it's put together. It's two faces of glass, and there's a seam, and then the lip, and that's kind of like a T. And so that's where I'm going to go to open and let the gas pressure out. But you can see it can go so very wrong because what if I don't hit the T juncture? What if the bottle explodes? What if, you know, the glass goes flying into my face or, you know, my arm or something? And so, you know, you can do this. You can look at the technique. The technique is very straightforward, but safety is really important.
Mm.
Safety is really, really critical, and I'm all about safety.
That's important.
I think
too.
so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So you can show us a little bit later. I'm really excited
am.
about that.
I am.
How did you get involved in this? I mean, what made you want to become a master Sabrousse?
Yes, Sabrousse. Well, I was just bumming around Europe with a French sommelier boyfriend. We were going around to his friends' houses, and you know, I wasn't a master sommelier yet, but I was well into my studies, and I saw this. We would walk in, they would hand my friend a sword and a bottle of champagne, and this would be lunch, and the same thing at dinner, lunch, dinner, lunch, dinner. And you know, after about the third day, I thought, that looks so cool. I think I can do it. I'm going to ask them if I can try it. And I'm watching them like a hawk, every deal. I'm so fascinated, taking notes. It's like, you know, I'm not just casually, oh, that looks good. You know, I really wanted to learn and see and do it right. And by the way, all of these people were champion sommeliers, you know, Mondial, all of that. It was like a close-knit community of really, you know, high caliber sommeliers and their families. So they also knew what they were doing. They did it, you know, very well, very precisely well. So I one day said, can I try it? And the host looked at me and said, and sized me up, you know, like, oh, sure, an American girl wants to try this, you know, with a French pride. And, you know, no, there's no way, no. And I said, please, just let me try it, you know. And so they gave me the sword, they gave me the bottle, and I did it the way I had observed, and it went off without a hitch. And from that point on, I was hooked. So then I just kept researching and observing, and, you know, Marion Baldy, I believe, from UC Davis, you know, she wrote a whole article on it. You know, a lot of people save her. But, you know, she has a picture with stitches. And, you know, I've had things go wrong. I've picked glass out of my neck and off my arms. And, you know, and people have had, you know, get cuts here, you know. And so it is glass, and it's raw exposed glass. So you really need to control, you know, what happens with that once the glass is exposed. So it's really, you know, important, and it's hard at the same time because you're drinking champagne, you're entertaining, you're having fun. Right. A lot of times this is attempted when it really shouldn't be attempted, when the bravado is there from the first couple of glasses. Yeah. And that's the absolute worst time to try it, because then you're not thinking so well, and you're just kind of like, oh, I can do this. And
right.
So.
Well, even opening a bottle of champagne, as you pointed out earlier, is a dangerous thing, right? A tremendous amount of pressure, pointed in the wrong direction.
But it's easy. It's simple. Once you get it down, it's really easy. Yeah. It's nothing to be afraid of. But if you want, there's so many videos on YouTube you can watch, and you can always call Grape Goddess, Planet Grape. I'll come show you how to open a bottle. A lot of tasting rooms have staff that can demonstrate it for you how to open it. You know, just don't shake it up and point it towards your ex.
Don't do the Formula One shake it and great.
You know.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. So we have the mum. What do you guys think of the mum?
Yeah, it's tasty.
Yeah.
Tasty?
More citrus.
So now we're going on more citrus? More delicate? Would you say more delicate?
Absolutely. And this is a luxury cuvee or a tête de cuvee, but it's still also on the delicate side because that is the house mark or the traditional style, the house style, I should say, of Perrier-Jouet. You know, even wine like Moet's Dom Perignon, you know, I like to say it's lacy, it's frilly, it's just easygoing, you know, and that's a hard thing to say about a $150 retail bottle of wine, but that's the style. It's like you don't have to think about it, you don't have to concentrate, you know, it's just so eminently drinkable, and Perrier-Jouet is kind of in that same family where there's not a whole lot of that smokiness or tar or other things that you get in the maybe bigger and bolder champagnes. Right. So it's great for, you know, folks that like maybe a more delicate style or that have a more refined sensibility, or perhaps that like, or are having a very delicate food like crudo, raw seafood that's very delicate that you don't want anything to overpower it.
A beautiful bottle.
And I was just about to say, isn't it a pretty bottle?
It sure is.
Still done by hand?
Oh,
I don't know.
I
I jest.
The iPhone is done by hand too.
Let's not start. So it's, I think you said earlier on, Chris, it's one of the most distinctive wine bottles. It has been for decades.
And people love it. It's a great gift item. It's kind of like it's recognizable. You know, it makes a lot of people happy. Oh, the flower bottle. Thank you. And so that's great marketing.
Very
It's kind
much
of
so.
like I recognize
Well,
it.
when it was created, it wasn't created with marketing in mind. It was with design in mind. So it's wonderful that it survived.
You're right. It's a lot more delicate than some of the other champagnes we've had.
Very subtle. But still, there's a power there.
You know what I love about this day? We haven't had a bad champagne yet, right? There's not one where, well, we had one cork bottle, but that's not because of the quality of the.
Which Johnny Cigar said, by the way, he would happily take.
Oh, really?
Cork bottle, yeah.
And
So-
what?
Because he said it all tastes good to him, which is a shame.
And Champagne, it's a very small region, and they're very protective of their name Champagne, and they go to great lengths to keep the product, at a very high caliber. People know each other. There's not, as there are in other very famous regions, not so far away in France. I don't want to say it, but you know what I mean. But there's not this variation in quality based on the producer or
Right.
just let's make a quick buck, because we have a famous appellation. Overall, all Champagne starts here and only goes up. There's no below par Champagne. There may be Champagne that is not your personal style, but all Champagne across the board, grower, Grand Mark, everything in between, all of it is already above par quality starting out the gate.
Right.
And that's an amazing thing. And so you might say, well, I'm spending $60 for this bottle. Well, you can easily spend $60 on anything, a lot of things, and it's not good. You can easily spend 10 times that in some of these other appellations, and it's just not good at all.
Right.
So you have almost like a built-in guarantee that it's going to be good. And if it's not to your personal taste, so that all that means to you is to maybe try something else the next time. If you get a headache, it's probably because it was a demi-sec champagne, it was too sweet. Champagne should not give you a headache. But again, have it with food, have it with some almonds or even some tortilla chips or olives. It's a nice, really good kind of thing to eat while you're tasting these wines.
Yeah.
Olives, any kind of salty snack, peanuts. The British like to say the crisps.
The crisps.
Crisp. I was so impressed. I was like, oh, a crisp.
That's how I would say that
I'm
too.
so sophisticated. And then I said, those aren't crisps, those are chips. They said, that's what we mean. So I just thought, well, that's a very sophisticated way to say potato chip.
That's what we say.
So I heard an interesting. Go ahead.
We have a question here.
Yeah,
which
great.
so someone's asked, given that we've been talking quite a lot about the geography of the Champagne area, somebody's asked, when is a good time to go and visit it? And what would be some must-visit producers?
Oh, the producers. Well, the thing about Champagne is a lot of the producers have their headquarters in Epernay or Reims. So those are the two places to go. And that's where you want to go and kind of make your way, and you can visit 10 producers just going up and down the blocks of these small cities or towns. Yeah, it's almost, if you want to actually tour the vineyards, you should set that up with the Champagne house and let them drive you around out there. Or if you want to visit a grower, one of these farmer fizz producers, you might go through their American importer and have them set you up. But any of the wines that we tasted today, all of these are good places to visit. A couple names that we haven't seen here today are Tarlant. I'm a big fan of Tarlant. It's more in that in that Bollinger style, the kind of bigger, more robust style. Jacques Solas is a beautiful house to visit. Villemar. You really have to look at how much time do you have and how do you want to use that time. I would rather use that time being in one of the centers, the headquarters, and visiting a producer in the morning, having a nice lunch with several champagnes with food, visiting another producer in the afternoon, having a lovely dinner with all of these great champagnes as well, and then you're more relaxed than driving around and getting lost in the vineyards and all of that. So,
And in terms of times of year, obviously we're just coming to the end of what has been a great harvest for us here in California. Is harvest a good time to go to Champagne?
Anytime besides June, July, August. So the summer months are probably the worst time to go there. And you know, January, yes, it's cold. Yes, it's cold and gray, but guess what? There's nobody there, and they would love. You'll get so much more attention. So the dead of winter is a great time to go. There's no wrong time to go to Champagne.
Probably get a cheap flight in January as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And now there's a train from Paris. You can take the fast train. It takes about an hour and a half, so you can even pop in for the day.
Great. Well, that's great advice. So let's hope this person takes it up and books their flight to go there in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I definitely want to second your Tarlant. Phenomenal producer, great brother and sister Melanie, the sister, great on social media at Tarlant on Twitter, and probably one of the best zero dosage champagnes that I've had occasion to try.
And there are another couple of names that we haven't seen today. Philippe Onat makes a beautiful wine. The Clos de Bois is one of my ultimate, desert island. And then Bruno Paillard, the Néclus Ultra, or NPU, is just, it does this.
Yeah,
makes you speechless.
That's
so
great.
People that know me sometimes that think I'm talking too much should give me that. I'll shut up.
So now we're going to move on to one of Ed Thrall's favorite champagnes, right? The rosé. And I smell the food. Do I smell the food?
Yeah, you do. It's a whole box of it.
All right, great. So we're going to do this. I think we're all in need of a little bit of food at this point. But Gosset, just one of the fantastic producers. Again, family owned. I think it's also partially owned by Palm Bay Imports as well. But doing some phenomenal champagnes. And last year they were kind enough to support us with their Blanc de Blanc. This year we have the rosé, the Grand Rosé. Really distinctive bottle. One you would savor or
no? Anything that's non-traditional is not going to work.
Not going to work. Okay.
Oh, I poured you some there.
I'm not looking for seconds. Thank you.
We're not at a want for champagne, but that's the good thing.
Exactly. No, this is.
So, pass this back to you.
Thank you.
And so while we're kind of stepping back now because we've gone away from, we've just had a luxury cuvée, and now we're going back to kind of a entry level, but rosé. This house makes pretty powerful wines, and this particular rosé is, as you can see, is very expressive.
Just somebody else has asked a question in the last couple of minutes. We talk about the different levels in champagne. So what are the decisions that the champagne houses make to take different wines and put them in, for example, their top champagnes?
So the champagne, the chef de cave, or the nose, le nez, they call them, will go and and we'll spend weeks and weeks and weeks tasting all of these individual lots, and then coming up with a blend based on, okay, this vintage we got some great Pinot Noir, and that vintage we got some great Chardonnay, and from that particular area, and kind of like all these pieces of a puzzle, and then kind of blend it together. And the best of that, like when they come across, wow, this is the best, just like a winemaker here, that barrel is better than any other barrel, that's my best stuff. And so it's the same idea. They're going to find what is kind of far above the rest and single that out and isolate that and make that their best, or their luxury, or their tête de cuvée, their head of the cuvée, the head of the blend, the best.
And that's the wine that goes into the Dom Perignons, the Cristals,
Yes.
the Comte de Champagnes of this world.
The Comte de Champagne, the Sir Winston Churchill from Paul Roger, all of these kind of those names that are, and how do you know? Look at the price. Champagne is really, also easy to read because you can kind of know what level you're at based on the actual price. So we saw, I used to say there's this 30, 60, 90 rule, $30 for non-vintage, 60 for vintage, and then 90 for luxury cuvée. These days it's more like 50, 100, 150. But, and that's retail pricing. But the beautiful story of today is that look at K&L and Total Wines and all of these great direct imports. So now we're back down to the mid-30s, even low 30s for our entry-level wines from the grower champagnes at least, if not from some of the Grand Marque. So really, you kind of do get what you pay for with champagne, which is really nice. So if you do splurge for the luxury cuvee, it's actually going to be worth it. So very reliable.
Is it safe to say, and this is how it was presented to me, non-vintage, consistency year to year, something you go to and say, hey, I want to know what I'm getting. Vintage is really a great snapshot of that specific year.
Exactly.
And will change from year to year.
Yes.
Not so much influenced by a house style maybe.
Exactly.
As it is the terroir and what the growing season is giving you.
Exactly. So we'll see that with our last wine in the fight here, our Veuve Clicquot, because Veuve Clicquot Orange Label is one of the most recognized brands out there, and that orange label is a non-vintage, and the goal is to make it consistent so that people who have it once, will want it again. Billicart Saman is another one. People have it once, there's that pink label, I want the pink label, I want the orange label. Mum has that, the cordon rouge, the red stripe across it. So, the big houses want you to kind of get familiar with and then gravitate towards that same brand, and they want you to like it every time, and they don't want to surprise you with a different taste or style. When you get into a wine from a single vintage, there is going to be variation. It should be still in the same light, medium, full category that the house is the signature of the house. But this 2004 vintage rosé from Veuve Clicquot will be different from their 2000 vintage rosé, for example, and it will reflect more of the vintage. It's also almost twice the price of the orange label, so there's that as well. So often the best deals are the entry level and the luxury cuvee. These in-between levels are the vintage are not always the best deal unless it's your cup of tea.
Right. You have a great story about Veuve Clicquot you were going to share with us.
Yes. So a lot of Veuve means widow, and a lot of these women during the wars were left alone to take care of the farm, the kids, the family, all of the responsibility, and so, and then often they were left as widows or veuve, and so she, was very distraught, and couldn't sleep and had a lot of financial pressure, and also being in charge all of a sudden of a wine farm, if you will, and having to tell all the vineyard workers what to do, give them direction, and make the wine and all of this. So you can imagine, she's up late at night and she's at her table, and and it's a nice sturdy wooden table like this, and she's just kind of sitting there, and she reaches for a steak knife, and she's just kind of going, oh, I don't know what to do, I can't take it, how are we going to make the champagne, how are we going to get it off the lees, the dead yeast, I can't deal with this anymore. And she keeps doing this, and she sees that she's dug a little hole in her wooden table. And she's not thinking about it because she's thinking about all her problems. So you know how that happens. You get an answer when you're not thinking about it, when you go to something else. And so she looks down and she looks back up. I got it. I'm going to make a riddling rack. So she made a full hole, and then she put the wall up like a sandwich, the table up like a sandwich board, and she made the riddling racks, those racks that we use to turn the bottles to get all of the yeast, the spent yeast down into the neck so we can get it out of the bottle. And also in that contact, get the autolytic character, that beautiful brioche and yeasty character that we love so much and is the signature of champagne. So she kind of had that discovery. So she was one of the many folks that contributed along the way to the champagne that we have today.
That's amazing. And I think this definitely shows the autolytic character, right? Especially compared to the Gosset that we had before.
Very much. Did I just see In-N-Out go by?
It's in.
Am I imagining things?
Too much champagne. I don't know what you're talking about.
We were talking with the former Charlie Trotter sommelier of these very exquisite and sophisticated food pairings. Now we're down to In-N-Out. Is that it?
You're right. So perfect segue. So before we go to that, before we get to the food and wine pairing portion, I do want to throw it to the audience real quick. Any favorites of these?
Perrier Jouet.
Perrier Jouet.
The
Veuve
Veuve
Clicquot.
is much better. It has more body.
Love is above.
The Veuve is above. I like that.
Yes.
So I know you've got to get ready for the sabering, which will happen here in a couple of minutes. So stay tuned. It's going to be quite amazing. Great music, some of my favorite. So I'll let the cat out of the bag. We've looked at some food and wine pairing. You know, the goal here is to enjoy champagne every day of the year. You don't need to wait for a special occasion, marriage, birth of a child, celebration of a promotion. So I've decided to pair the champagnes that we have here today, In-N-Out Burger and burritos. So we have a couple of different style of burritos. We have vegetarian, we have beef, and we have chicken burritos. And then we have In-N-Out Burger, animal style, and French fries. So the challenge here to you guys out here, pick a favorite champagne and food pairing. Dig in. There should be plenty for everyone. And while we're waiting for the food to come out, Andrew, anything happening out there?
Yeah, lots of champagnes being drunk.
Yeah. What are some of the ones you're seeing coming through?
Again, interestingly, we're seeing quite a lot of grower champagne being hosted. And again, seeing a lot of them. I think my picture of the day so far, I'm not sure if we can put this on the screen.
Oh, you have to.
My picture of the day so far is this one.
Where's that from?
So this is somebody on Instagram, somebody by the name of Jeff Burrows.
Nice.
And Jeff is enjoying a bottle of champagne Charton Talay with some oysters.
Nice
A
job.
little bit more of a traditional food pairing.
It is.
So, so I'm just going to see if we can put this up on the screen here, just so we can share it with everybody. Can we do that? How does that look? Probably not too good.
I think that camera right there.
Camera, of course. So.
Nice. Oyster is obviously a classic pairing for champagne, caviar, foie gras. I can think of many more. I think we alluded to it a little bit earlier as well. Red meat, fantastic pairing for rosé champagnes. I think people, wouldn't you agree? I know I've done this personally myself. Used or enjoy champagne as an aperitif, and then you quickly change over to something else.
Yeah, and so that's something we do. Even though we've said a couple of times here, you know, champagnes for every day of the week.
Yeah.
I think, truthfully, most of us have to go to work the next morning. So, and I suppose we would have champagne, I don't know, once or twice a month.
Yeah.
We would drink sparkling wine on other occasions. But I've always loved starting an evening with some bubbles.
Absolutely.
I think Catherine's point that she made a few minutes ago was really interesting. How when people come here to where we are in Napa, and they're drinking a lot of those and tasting a lot of those big Cabernets that we make here, cleansing your palate with some bubbles between those tastings. It's a great excuse to drink some champagne.
Absolutely. I think Robert said it too. Ex-sommelier for Charlie Trotters. He said one of his mentors said, think of it as kind of a sorbet, right? A liquid sorbet to have between the courses. So I think that's a perfect.
The other interesting thing that I'm seeing today is very extravagantly decorated bottles.
Yeah.
It's almost as if it's at the premium level of champagne.
Yeah.
Some of them are, I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they seem to be kind of embossed in gold and various other items to add that.
Yeah, there's Ace of Spades, the new favorite champagne of I forget the rapper right now, Married to Beyoncé.
I'm too young to know.
You're too young. Right, wait, you're the guy who bought the Madonna album in '83 in Germany.
My kids could probably tell you the answer to that. And that's actually an interesting subject, is how personalities, singers, actors, will latch on to a favorite champagne, and all of a sudden that's the most highly sought after champagne for 3 or 6 months or a year.
Absolutely. I think we saw that with Roeder Cristal, right?
Yeah.
Shot to celebrity fame, and you watched MTV Cribs, and everyone had Cristal in their fridge as they toured their kitchen.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually here in town recently, I met a lady who works for a champagne house who have a different name here in America from what they have in Champagne. It's called Luxor in Champagne.
Okay.
It has Luxor as a brand. It's registered to somebody else here, so they called it Comte de Cézanne, I think it is.
Okay.
She was telling me the stories about how much this champagne sells for, and I almost fell off my chair.
It's quite amazing.
We're talking in the high hundreds of and literally they can't bring enough of it to America.
Yeah.
And it goes into high-end nightclubs and high-end restaurants, and there's demand for it.
That's amazing.
So I almost think sometimes putting a higher price on it will increase demand.
You know what? Luxury products, that's how a lot of luxury products are being sold.
Yep.
The one thing I did want to talk about, maybe not related to champagne, and hopefully some of the hamburgers and burritos will make its way over here to us. I don't know if you're as lightheaded as I am, but talk to me a little bit about TEDx Napa Valley.
Okay.
And what you have planned.
Well, firstly, thank you for letting me wear the T-shirt on today, and I know you're a huge TED fan.
Absolutely.
For those people who don't know, TED and TEDx is essentially it's a speaker conference.
Oh.
Yeah, we did well here, didn't we?
Wait, we have to show the camera this. So we have burritos, we have super chicken, super beef. I think we have vegetarian, French fries, and probably Madame Veuve Clicquot is rolling over in her grave that we are doing the sacrilege, but I think it just proves that hopefully that champagne is
an everyday drink.
An everyday drink. So anyway, I interrupted you.
That's okay. So just to kind of give people a quick background, TED, T-E-D, stands for Technology, Entertainment and Design. Started in 1984, actually here in Northern California. It's now moved for its annual conference down to Long Beach. It's always been viewed as a real highbrow and sometimes exclusive event where tickets worth $6,000 and you have to get on the list. So in 2009, as a result of their huge popularity, they decided to create a program where they would license local committees and teams to do local events. So I'm one of the curators of TEDx Napa Valley along with my partner, and she got the idea to do it here in Napa last year, and the first event was done on September 11th at the Opera House last year. It was very successful. And the one thing that we do well, actually there's many things we do well here in Napa, but one of the things we do well is we do great food and wine events. You do them in your work, and we've all experienced them. So what we brought was an event that was very non-food and wine.
Yeah.
It was about speakers sharing their ideas. Obviously, we serve great wines and great food, through the event. And so our event this year is a weekend event on the 1st and 2nd of December. We're doing a live stream on Saturday, a speaker dinner on Saturday night, and a TEDx event on Sunday. So if anyone's looking for any more information, they Google us or go to TEDxNapaValley.org.
Are they wine related or could be anything?
No, we've actually, it's a tough one working in the industry. We've actually kept our speakers away from food and wine.
Yeah, but they're better online. I've noticed the speakers are better.
When they have some wine?
No, in the audience.
So it's interesting. We've had speakers from this valley. Chef Keller's a good example, who has spoken at, I know he's spoken at a TEDx. Justin, has he spoken at TED?
TEDx.
He's actually spoken at a TEDx.
Yeah.
So we've had Amelia Seha spoke at another TEDx out of here.
Right.
What we're trying to do is bring ideas into our valley from other parts of the world, and we can't do another food and wine event. We do them so well here. We really do.
Well, I would throw a challenge out to viewers and maybe to some champagne houses, since champagne houses are phenomenal marketers of their product. I would say that transcends marketing wine more into the luxury product segment. That they come maybe at some point and share at a TEDx how to market a luxury product rather than a wine.
And what's really interesting about every TEDx, whether it happens in Napa and literally there are an average 5 of these a day all around the globe, so they're a huge growing area, is they pick a theme, and each one is a theme.
Yeah.
So we picked a theme which is very broad this year, which is connected.
Yeah.
And that could touch everything.
Yeah.
so it could touch the grower, a champagne grower who decided to connect his vineyard with the consumer. So yeah, what's interesting about the whole TEDx area is it's its own marketing giant.
And TEDx Napa Valley is having a show coming up soon on ToutSuite.
That's right.
You're going to get to meet some of the speakers and get the feel for what this connected theme is all about. So.
Fantastic.
So yeah,
check our calendar.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about today.
And now we're going to bring everybody on.
Perfect.
We're starving.
I'm like making a mess over here.
That's okay. We can be messy.
French fries.
Yeah.
Let's have some fries.
Have some fries.
Start
Have
with fries and champagne.
I definitely think of fries and like potato chips as a pairing for.
I do too.
For
I can
like
eat a whole
Wonka
bag.
Wonka or something
Everybody
like that.
gather around.
Popcorn. How about barbecue ribs with a rosé?
We'll be right over.
As an example. I need 9 hours to slow roast.
All right. Well,
You recently had I think when I forget his name right now from Spokane.
Oh, Josh.
Josh came down. You had some champagne in your backyard, fire pit.
Yeah.
What did you serve with it then?
Let's see, what was that? I don't think we had anything fancy actually. Now that I think about it, that was just kind of more celebration for his birthday.
the wine
Coming to wine country. You know, he's from Washington, so he hadn't been to a real wine country yet.
yeah, exactly.
So we had to show him what that was all about.
Right on.
Yeah. But
the question is, what doesn't go with champagne?
Exactly.
That's really where it comes from.
I have to say this.
It's probably the most versatile wine with food, don't you think?
I think this burrito goes phenomenally well, especially the sour cream with some of the acidity.
definitely.
Not so much with the aluminum, but the other part.
Yeah, if you
The aluminum gives
separate
more
the
of a-
aluminum.
more of a metallic, kind of a minerality. Yeah.
The In-N-Out though, I don't know. Someone's going to have to tell me about the In-N-Out, how that goes.
Yeah, I'm going to try one of those.
have you had one
I
yet?
haven't had one
Fries
yet.
go with
I'm
it.
really looking forward to In-N-Out with rosé champagne.
I mean, with the animal style, right? You've got little ranch and well, not ranch. What is that anyway?
It's a secret sauce.
It's a secret sauce.
So can you give your friends a hard time about the governor's remarks?
So we're about to be ready for Catherine. In about 2 minutes, she's going to come out, do her sabering of the.
I've been waiting to see that.
Me too.
Because I hear amazing things about her, how she does it.
You know what? She's also scared me into not trying it myself. I don't know about you, but
Oh, really?
talking about
Oh, yeah, shards in your
tendons. What's that? Oh, the music. Yeah.
So everybody come around, grab a burger.
Grab a
or
burger,
burrito.
enjoy.
Because everybody wants to see us stuff our faces with In-N-Out burgers. Makes for great television.
I do. So I think I'm having the chicken super.
The chicken super. I had the vegetarian. I think that went quite well. But I'm looking forward to the In-N-Out now. Any favorites out there in Twitterville on
style here.
crazy food and wine pairing?
Which one's vegetarian? Oh, there you go.
Thank you. I'm currently drinking the Pure Guy with In-N-Out, and the mouthfeel of the wine and the creaminess of their special sauce. Gotta say, it's delicious.
I have to say I got animal style because I thought that it was a little creamier for the pairing. Did you have a
Good call.
Did you have an In-N-Out burger? No. Not your thing.
So someone's just given us a better picture.
No beef,
No beef.
There you go.
no beef.
I wouldn't really call this beef anyway.
It's
So,
much better than any of the other fast food deals.
So Jeff was obviously
Found
watching
that
us.
in the
Jeff,
corner
if
of the
you
table. I don't know where I
if you're there,
put it.
Jeff Burrows, the man who paired the Charton Talay with the oysters.
Yes.
He sent us a better photograph for us.
Oh, what does he
So,
have?
I think he's been taking lots of photos of
Yeah, he
his,
has.
his oysters, and
So where's he enjoying this?
let's find out where Jeff is.
Well, let's say, Chris, have you been to Hog Island?
I have.
How many times?
Jeff's
How many times?
I mean, you always bring a bottle of champagne.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You go to I go to the Oxbow
Yeah.
there and have actually one of my favorite things is their poor boy,
Yesterday.
po' boy,
One.
deep fried oysters with sparkling wine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect pairing.
That's the way
So
to
any-
do it.
Can't miss with that.
Any ambitions? I know you're making your own wine. You're making some Russian River, Sonoma Coast, Anderson Valley Pinot Noir under what label?
I am, so Thrall's wine.
Thrall's
That's-
wine,
That's
okay.
what we're making. Maybe one day I might consider making sparkling wine.
Right on.
I don't know, because I'm into Champagne, and, I'm into Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Great base wine, obviously,
Sure.
for that. But yeah, I've had a great harvest this year, 400 cases.
Right on.
That's
And
nice.
this is your first vintage.
First big vintage, yeah.
Where would we find it? If we were
Right
looking
now,
for
it's you have to find it in the barrel in our winery.
it? You have the key?
Won't be
The
it.
address?
Yeah. Keeping that to myself. No, you can tweet me at Thrall's Wine or Facebook. You can find me at Thrall's Family Cellars. And get on my mailing list, and I'll let you know after it's aging.
What was your first champagne?
Oh, my first champagne. I was a big Veuve Clicquot fan
Yeah.
early on in the days. But I like a lot of grower champagnes these days.
What were you, like, 14 years old?
Yeah. How'd you guess? We didn't drink that early over here. Only in Europe do they drink that early.
That was my age.
I know.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Here we go.
we are ready for Catherine.
Okay.
And what we're going to do now is we're going to clear this space right about there.
Right here.
And Catherine's going to come in, and with her beautiful, beautiful gown, she will be savoring a bottle of the champagne of her choice. No, I didn't say.
Make sure that you come
We cleared the table.
Yep. Oh no, so we're gonna get her right here. Right here. Yeah. And Catherine will be with us in just a minute. Here she comes. We need a password, an iPhone password, to play the. Okay.
We need all this cleared up.
Okay. But you're gonna be right there, so we will.
Drums.
I'm gonna be over
Drums.
Right where you are.
yeah, but I need a
Okay.
place here. No French fries.
No problem. Wow, you have
Henry,
some
you might
gear.
want to this way.
That's a preview right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Catherine Follis. All right,
So,
this camera right here.
so what I'm about to do is open a bottle of champagne with something that's not as typical for most sommeliers to use, which is this sword. And what I like to do is open this in the way that I learned in France, the way that the sommeliers kind of trained me, but I like to add my own kind of personal flair to it. And so what I'll be doing is performing this, this festive technique, but I'll be performing it very carefully so that nobody gets hurt.
Oh my God.
And who would like a taste of this?
Well, that's not how you do it.
Nice.
Thank you so much for joining us on ToutSuite Champagne Day, hashtag Champagne Day. Enjoy, be safe, drink a lot of champagne, drink some Farmer Fizz, drink your favorite champagne. Thanks so much to Catherine Fallis for being with us, savoring a champagne, Andrew Hardy for being here, Ed Thralls, and thank you for everyone who supported Champagne Bureau, Veuve Clicquot, Mum, Perrier Jouet, Moet, Henriot, all the grower producers, Total Wine, Henri Reserve, Robert Howd. Thanks so much and cheers.
Cheers.